You're obviously welcome to ask questions either in our forum now or to Scott afterwards, but there will be a line item budget in our annual report next Sunday, so you'll get to see all the glorious details. After Scott gives us the brief budget preview, then we will introduce our Vestry candidates, who I think I see all of them here with us. I will also introduce to you our senior warden for next year, who is not here yet. Oh, never mind, she is. And then we'll also, if our diocesan delegate candidates are here, we'll let you know about them as well. So, without further ado, Scott, give us a preview. Oh, yeah. Hold that thought. One of the things Scott asked me to do, because you'll see this in the budget, but I wanted to make it, to give you a little narrative about it. Kimball, our children and youth minister, who's probably cleaning up from Godly Play at the moment, has done a tremendous job this year getting our children and youth ministry restarted. We knew when we hired her that she would only be with us for this school year. She's between undergrad and grad school. She's headed off in the fall to pursue a doctorate in physical therapy. So we knew that she would only be with us this year. So we have done a lot of really good hard work as a vestry and a finance committee with number crunching and such to create a scenario where we can advertise for an associate rector position starting this mid-year, around the time when Kimball leaves. So Kimball will depart from us and we will send her off with our blessing. But then our hope is that we can hire a 30-hour-a-week clergy person as an associate rector who will take on those responsibilities for children and youth ministry and to expand into young adult ministry, as well as all the other things that clergy are called to do as well. So that is unfolding. You'll see that reflected in the budget. If you want to hear more about all of that, I'm happy to have conversations with you later about all that or during this forum as well. But just because it's going to make more sense than just seeing line items on screen, wanted to explain that part. Did I cover all those bits? All right, so Scott, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you can see why I didn't want to have to go through all that narrative in the middle of line items on the budget. So thank you, Aaron, for covering that. Let me just start off here with kind of the executive summary, the overview of where we are. This last year, 2022, was a very successful financial year for St. Jude's. I kind of joked at the annual meeting last year that for year after year I was used to standing up here at the annual meeting and telling you that the end is near, and you know, we were on an unsustainable path and so forth. And then all of a sudden, last year things got a lot better, and I was kind of in the uncomfortable position of having to deliver good news. I'm getting more comfortable with it, and it's good news again this year. And again, at the annual meeting, we'll talk more about the year that was, but just as background for the budget for the coming year, last year was a pretty good year for us. Expect more or less, more of the same for 2023. So things are looking a lot better, as you'll see in a minute when I put some charts up here. Our pledge income, which had been in long-term slow decline for a while, is now pretty stable. It's not really growing, but we've bottomed out, and it's pretty stable. We have considerably more income from facility use rentals from the tenants who use our campus during the week, which means that we are a little more reliant on that income than we used to be. And as Aaron just kind of described, we have some modest expansion plans for what we'll be doing next year, and you'll see that reflected in the budget. So that's kind of the big picture story of where we are. Here's what income looks like over the last 5 years now. The first 4 years you see here, 2019 through 2022, are actual results, and then the last bar on the right is the 2023 budget. So this is the height of the bars, of course, shows you the total income, and you can see how that had a precipitous drop in 2020. We all know what happened that year, and then has been steady recovery since then. But you can also see here the colored segments of the bars show you the source of that income. So first and foremost is the blue bars. That's the pledge income, which is certainly the largest single piece, and as I said just a minute ago, has been pretty steady for the last 4 years or so. The next biggest piece is the green section. That's the facility use income, and you can see how that went from a modest amount pre-pandemic to very little at the beginning of the pandemic to just kind of exploding afterwards, and it's really at an all-time high for this past year, and will be another all-time high this coming year. So that's really the story of how the sources of our income have changed. The pledge and plate income, plate, by the way, is the sort of maroon colored bars just above the pledge income. That varies a little bit from year to year, but is fairly steady. That's all the donations in the offering plate that are not tied to pledges. So the combination of pledge and plate is what individuals donate to the church. And then the purple section, which fluctuates, as you can see, quite a bit from year to year, but isn't a really significant part of our income source, is what we call other income, everything else. It includes in 2023 a missional grant that St. Jude's has received for this coming year. Actually, I don't think Aaron mentioned this specifically, but as part of our work with college students and young adults, we've received a grant from the diocese for $15,000 for this coming year. That will support some of the cost of what we're doing in that area. And so that's why you see this very thin purple bar in the 2022 column there rise to a little bit bigger piece in 2023. So that's the main difference in the other income section. In case you're wondering, that much larger purple bar in 2021, that was our PPP loan that we got during the pandemic, which was forgiven in 2021. So that's where we are with income. As I said, it's a pretty positive story in terms of the overall increase. The only thing to be a little bit cautious about is we are more reliant than we used to be on the facility use income, and that means we're subject to surprises if one of our tenants were to suddenly depart or reduce their presence on campus or something. That'd be a much bigger effect than one parishioner coming or going, right? Because there are obviously a lot fewer tenants than we have pledging parishioners. But anyway, again, pretty good news here. As for the expenses, here I've got just last year and the budget for the coming year. So last year is in blue, the coming year is in red, and I hope you can read this. The different grouped bars here are the different categories in our expense budget. So it should leap out at you right away. Like most churches, our biggest category by far is clergy and staff. And that's also the category that has the biggest increase from last year to this coming year, largely for the reasons that Aaron just mentioned, where this budget includes bringing on a part-time associate. It also includes a 4% increase for all of our continuing staff, that is everybody who's been here at least a year. So that's the biggest change you'll see on this chart from the previous year. We've also, because it's so small on this chart, you probably can barely see, but the worship category also has an increase because we've made provision for additional guest musicians in our Sunday services. That's why the red bar is ever so slightly higher than the blue bar here. Our second biggest categories, or vying for second place here, would be the outreach and property categories. Outreach is just a little bit larger, and that's also one that has a little bit of an increase, enough that it shows up on this chart here. mostly, I should say outreach is our category that includes all of our SJO expenditures, all of our donations for theological education, and our biggest component of it is the fair share donations that we send to the diocese. So that's increased largely in line with the increase in our income because it's effectively proportional to our total income. Then across the board, we just have some inflation-driven increases in most of our expenses. So that's why you see small increases of the red bars over the blue ones in the other categories. This, I guess that's almost readable. This is kind of the summary chart of the numbers that make up the graphs I just showed. So what we have here in the three columns are the budget for last year, the actual results for last year, and then the 2023 budget. And so that percentage change column reflects the change between the two budget columns, so the first and third column on this chart. And as you can see, it's pretty much what I described on the income side. We have pledge income modestly increasing, but a much larger increase in the facility use income. That other income number, it's a big percentage change, but again, it's a pretty small amount, and so it's not terribly significant. For an overall increase in our projected income of about 11% from last year to this coming year. On the expense side, the biggest increases, both in percentage terms and in absolute dollars, is in the clergy and staff area, just for the reasons I described earlier. The second biggest percentage increase is in the worship area, and as I said, that's the guest musicians, but it's a large percentage increase on a fairly small base, so it doesn't contribute as much in absolute dollars. Outreach, as I mentioned, that's mostly driven by the fair share increases, and that's why the 10% increase you see there is approximately the same as the increase in our total income. All the other categories largely the same, some small increases just due to overall inflation. So basic story is we're doing well, expecting better things in terms of income in the next year, and we have plans to spend that income on some modest expansion that Aaron described. So let me pause here and see if there are questions on this. Jeffrey, you look like you have a question.
What's the source of the facility use increase?
So it's a couple of things. We've had. Yeah, sure. Let me repeat the question. Jeffrey asked, what's the source in the increase in the facility use income? And I assume you're asking specifically about in the last year, from last year to this coming year. Because before that, I think everybody knows, we had a big increase because we got some additional tenants. What has happened since last year is a couple of things. One is just our regular rent increases as leases renew. Most of our tenants have one-year leases, so they renew. I'll use Aaron's joke. They renew, annually, once a year. Right. It's all in the delivery. Yeah. So there are increases just from renewing those leases. We've also had a little bit of increased use from some of the tenants. So they're using a little more space, and so there've been some additional things. Also, a little bit of increase that's hard to predict just in the one-off use for meetings and events and that kind of thing. So all that together leads to what is about a 17% increase here. I think that number may in fact be a little bit conservative. I think we may do a little bit better than that next year. There are some likely increases that aren't reflected there. So that looks pretty good.
If you come during the week, you'll notice that our campus is hopping. There's a lot happening around here. I've got a mic so we can have questions spoken out. I see Jennifer and then Graham.
Oh, great.
I was wondering about the $15,000
The missional grant?
grant. Yeah, I don't know anything about like what we're planning on doing with that money, and so I'm just would like a better idea.
Okay, so Aaron may be in a better position than me to give details about that, but basically it is directed at the work we're doing with college students and young adults. So this will support some of the cost of both what Kimball's doing now and what a future associate rector will be doing. Do you want to talk more about specifics?
That was pretty much it. We wrote a grant to the, I learned yesterday, in fact, at our diocesan leadership retreat, that the missional church grants is one of the largest items in our diocesan budget. I don't remember, as Scott well knows, numbers, and I just don't understand them. So it's a large percentage of the diocesan budget. And we applied to receive a grant from that. We received that $15,000. We will apply again next year, and we'll see what we get next year. But that is exactly that, to reach out beyond the bounds of our campus, specifically for young adults, and in just kind of making ourselves known to the world. It means we're going to hire an associate rector to do the work, and we have budgeted specifically for an increase in young adult ministry budget line and in publicity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it should be obvious, $15,000 won't cover all of that, but it defrays the cost somewhat, and that's the idea.
Scott, do we have unexpected expenses that pop up?
What?
And do we have a budget for those things?
Right. So what's our budget for the known unknowns? Is that what you're asking? So yes. Yes. So yeah. And I will talk a little bit more about this at the annual meeting, actually, because I can't tell you what expenses will come up unexpectedly next year, but I can tell you which ones did come up unexpectedly last year, right? And we'll certainly talk about that a little bit. The hint is it's all about plumbing, yeah, well, right, heat too. Yeah, that one will come up next year, though. At least we haven't paid that money yet. But yes, to your question, yes, unexpected expenses, sometimes fairly large ones, do in fact come up, and we have some pretty significant reserve funds set aside. Some are for specific things, like we have a property reserve specifically for property-related expenses come up. We have a very general contingency reserve for just random stuff that doesn't fit any other category, and there has been spending over the last year, which again I will talk about this at the annual meeting when I review more about what happened last year. But we had pretty significant spending from those reserves for the aforementioned plumbing issues, and undoubtedly stuff will come up next year. And so one of the things that we do, and I guess I didn't talk about this before, but I guess I should mention those fairly significant surpluses you see on the bottom line of this chart. One of the things that we do with that surplus at the end of every year, it's almost every year we have a surplus, and when we do, the vestry decides where to allocate those surpluses, and one of the big things that we tend to allocate the surplus to is refilling those reserves, topping up the reserves that we've spent the previous year. Yeah.
Great. Other questions for Scott? Really?
Wow.
Amazing.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I will have, as I said, more detail about the past year next week at the annual meeting, and if you think of other questions about what we're doing going forward, again, we'll have an opportunity to ask those questions next week at the annual meeting as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. Let's give Scott a big hand. Graham, could you turn off the projector? We're done. We don't need it anymore. All right, let's bring up our vestry candidates. So Selby, Matt, Carolyn, and Cal. So come on up here. I'm going to introduce you, and you're going to say a little bit about yourselves. Very, very brief. No speechifying. And while they're getting settled, I want to introduce to you next year's senior warden, Lamel. As you know, Lamel has been our junior warden this past year, and as we went through this year, I thought, you know what? She's been a great junior warden. She'd be a really great senior warden. So she has agreed, and I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. And so we will elect, in case you don't know this, we elect, the vestry elects the junior warden. So after next week's annual meeting, the vestry will meet for the first time with these fine people, assuming you elect them. And they will choose the junior warden for this next year. You want to say anything, Lamel? Okay.
Aaron and I are going to be meeting very soon to create my platform.
Wonderful. Excellent. All right. So every year we elect vestry members. They serve 3-year terms, and so these 4 brave and faithful individuals have agreed to stand for election, which we will presumably we will elect them next Sunday at our annual meeting to serve on our vestry. We'll say more about our outgoing vestry members next week at our annual meeting, but for now, I just want you to get to know who these people are. So if you could just say your name, a little bit about yourself, very brief, and your favorite animal. And we're going to start right over here with Selby.
I was hoping to hear everybody else first. I'm Selby, Mary Lavasani. I've lived in Cupertino for 25 years. I came from the Midwest in 1984. My favorite animal is definitely a dog, and I'm on the lookout for a small, quiet, well-behaved, healthy dog. So if you know any sources, let me know.
Stuffed animal.
No, I want it alive. So, I have a cat.
Hi everyone, I'm Cal, also Clifton, and it's also a pleasure and an honor to be a candidate for the vestry. I look forward to serving with ideas and also collaborating with other fellow vestry members. I think my favorite animal would be a koala because they're peaceful, they are quiet, they climb trees, they're furry, and just don't piss them off. So I'd say koala.
Okay, I'm Matt Matthews. Take off the mask. Who is that masked man? Anyway, I've been here since 1985 with my wife Audrey, and I've done a lot of different things around here. I served on the vestry a couple of times, one partial and one full term. I was senior warden 1 year. And I've been asked to do that again, not senior warden part, no, just the vestry part. So after considering it for a couple of years now, I stand here as a candidate. So, there we go. Oh, my favorite animal. Well, we have 2 cats at home, so right now I'd have to say cat.
I am Carolyn Bowker, and I've been at St. Jude since somewhere in the early 90s. I, too, like Matt, have served in a whole lot of different places and ways. I've served on vestry when Karen first came for 3 years, and then I've served on 2 search committees and the Mission Covenant Committee, as well as serving at the altar and Eucharistic visiting, covenant groups, all over the place. My favorite animal, because I too have 2 cats, is going to have to be cat right now.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Carolyn. Hang on to the microphone. Do you have any questions? serving on the vestry? Jennifer.
What are you most concerned about joining the vestry? And maybe one of the vestry members who's here right now, currently on the vestry, can answer that, can respond to that.
Thank you. What are you most concerned about with serving on the vestry? Anybody want to venture an answer or a response?
Well, I'll just say it's a whole new experience for me, so I don't quite know what it's all about. I attended one meeting, so I kind of got a feel for it. But basically, I'm going to be on a learning curve for a while, so that makes me a little nervous, but hopefully I'll get the hang of it. So, anybody else want to say?
I'm with Selby on this. I'm fairly new to St. Jude's, so that's one of my concerns, but I think that everyone here is very supportive, and we all have a common goal of seeing St. Jude's go in various directions forward with progress, so I'm going to be with that learning curve with you.
What I'm most concerned about, normally I would say money, but that Scott seems to think that we're in good shape there, so I'll set that one aside. I think helping the parish grow would be my biggest concern.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Already got one.
I'm with Matt. Not only grow, but where we are headed. What the future of St. Jude's looks like.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for sharing that. Any current vestry members want to respond to any of that? Okay. Oh, Lamel. Excellent.
So, welcome, and hopefully we'll be saying welcome next time as well. Thank you for your willingness, and learning curves are welcome. So we are, hopefully you will find out pretty quickly, a pretty friendly group of folks, and we enjoy being with one another and working together. And we have been doing a lot of work on growth and where we are headed. We have good leadership for that, and you will be becoming a part of that leadership. So we will be prayerfully working together, and all of us are invited to participate in that work, not just those of us who are standing up here.
Excellent. Thank you, Lamel. Other questions for these folks or for vestry leadership in general? Okay. Thank you all so very much. You can sit down. Thank you. All right. One of the other things we elect every year are our diocesan delegates. Now, our diocesan delegates, especially in years where there is not a bishop election, they don't, frankly, have a ton to do. But it's important that we have our diocesan delegates because they are our representatives to the diocese as a whole and the work we do as a diocese. So, generally, they will go to deanery meetings and to our annual convention for the diocese and in other needs as arise. But it's not a high-intensity job, generally. And let's hope it isn't. But it's important for us to have good representation in our diocese. And so every year we elect 5 diocesan delegates. And if you are here to be elected, I see a few of you. Come on up. Ken, Carlos, Matt, who am I missing? Louise is not here. And Peter is not here. Mary, we're not electing Mary. She's already elected. Yeah. So Ken, Carlos, and Matt, as well as Peter Troop and Louise Marriott will be standing for election next week to serve as our diocesan delegates. When we elect them, they become our alternates, and this year's or last year's alternates become the delegates, and that's how it works. Anything you want to share about yourselves or your vision as a diocesan delegate? Okay, that's great. Any questions for our diocesan delegates? Favorite animal? All right, Matt, it's still a cat, I assume. All right, Carlos?
Oh, I'm between a rhinoceros, which I think is number one, and I do like the burrowing owl. They're burrowing owl. Yeah, sorry, they're cute little owl. I don't know. Maybe the rhinoceros is better.
I'm going to have to go with a dolphin.
Dolphin, excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, excellent. Thank you all very much, and we appreciate it. All right, and we were very efficient. We're finished. Good job, y'all. Let me offer a prayer as we leave. Gracious and loving God, thank you for gathering us, your people, for this day of worship, for fellowship, and for learning about where we are headed as a church. We thank you for how you have provided for us and how we are seeking to be your church, your people in this place. Guide us in that endeavor. Guide our leadership as we make wise decisions and seek your face in all things. Send us now in your peace that we might be peacemakers to everyone we meet. We pray this in your name. Amen. All right. Have a lovely afternoon.